Hello, good morning. Welcome to the annual meeting of Downtown Greensboro Incorporated. You know, like many of you, obviously this past year has been extremely challenging. Almost a year ago, we were having a party at the Tanger Center for the ACC men's basketball. Before that abruptly got cut about 12:02 p.m. Well, now we're a year later, and we understand how challenging the last year has been. But today, we're here to talk about Together Towards Tomorrow, how we work together to make Greensboro, downtown Greensboro, and the entire triad the best it can be. We're going to kick it right off with our roundtable discussion with a terrific group of community leaders in healthcare, education, and the workforce industry. Let's go straight to the roundtable. By the way, we will have questions and answers through the chat room, and we look forward to hearing from you. It's been such an interesting year, and I can't wait to kick this off and get started. I want to first, as we welcome this illustrative group, is say we have maintained all social protocols and social distancing and healthcare. And so at this point, I think it's okay. We're about 7 feet apart from each other. We've worn our mask the entire time of being together or in the same room. And I think it's okay now, Mary Jo, if we remove our masks?
Sure.
Okay. You know, I've gotten to the point where, quite frankly, I'm kind of used to wearing a mask. And so when we get through this, and we will get through it, it's going to, you know, I'm going to probably miss it at some points. You know, we have an amazing group today assembled for you, and I'd like to thank the Triad Business Journal for working with us on this. It's been a collaborative group, and it's been something that we think that the city needs, the county needs, and the Triad needs is to understand what is going on and where are we going together towards tomorrow. So I'd like to thank Mary Jo Cagle, who's the current Chief Operating Officer of Cone Health Systems, and Scott Baxter, who's the Chairman and CEO of Kontoor Brands, most famously known as the owners of Wrangler and Lee brands, Rockin' Republic. Thank you, Scott. Mary Jo.
Thank you, Zach.
And
Absolutely.
visiting with us virtually is UNCG Chancellor Frank Gilliam. Frank, you're an awesome guy. I wish you were here with us, but I understand why you need to be at home, and so glad that you could join us today.
Thanks, Zach. Glad to be here.
Okay, so Together Towards Tomorrow. One of the things that we want to do in downtown Greensboro is always think about the future. We don't forget the past, we don't forget where we are today, but it's where we're going tomorrow that matters, that we can try to help move Greensboro forward. And so, Mary Jo, I got to start with you. You know, we've learned so much the last year. Can you give us some insight into what you think is one of the main things that the healthcare industry at Cone Health has learned and what we should be thinking about as we move forward?
So one of the biggest things we at Cone Health have learned is how to really leverage our partners in the community. So as we all remember when this hit us a year ago, we were overcome by the lack of PPE, personal protective equipment that we had because our supply chain was so disrupted. And we were overwhelmed by how our partners in the community stepped up to help us meet that need. And so Kontoor helped us.
We were proud to be a partner with you as always, and really happy to help. And thank you for all the support and the partnership. It's been a lot of fun, actually.
So that was a great partnership that stepped up and immediately began to help us. And other manufacturers in the area have stepped up. We've had a manufacturer in the area who has stepped up and learned all of the specifications necessary by OSHA to meet our requirements, to be able to help us to go into our COVID wards and help us. So, but those aren't the only partnerships that we've had. So we've had partnerships that have come in and helped feed our staff to lift them up. We've had such innovation that has occurred. And so it has been bidirectional, right? People who've come and lifted us up and helped meet our needs. And in return, we've been able to support businesses that really, as we all know, because things have really closed down, we've been able to support those businesses as well. So I think that's the big thing that we've learned, the top of our list. But the list has been long, Zach. We've learned about agility and how quickly we need to move and change. We've learned about the power of digital services to our patients when they don't need to be out gathering in crowds, that we can deliver healthcare services digitally. We have improved the monitoring of our supply chain. So really, the list of the things we've learned have been great, but number one on that list is the importance of our partnerships and how they've grown.
You know, that's something that Greensboro, I think, has done so well in is partnerships. It's something, you know, when you think of the philanthropy of our citizens, the partnerships, public-private partnerships, I think that's a huge thing. And you mentioned a story earlier this morning about almost 8,000 cards that folks that are coming through the lines and just thanking the frontline workers. And that's just a community, the Greensboro community, understanding and appreciating all the healthcare workers that are trying to keep us healthy.
Yeah, so at the holidays, we did have that, and it came from UNCG, from our high schools, from various faith groups that just wrote thank you cards at the holidays. And then various businesses gave small gifts, little candles, soaps, just small gifts. And we were able to, I stood with other leaders at clocks as they checked out after they got off shift.
Oh, yeah.
And gave these cards and these just small little gifts. And the look of appreciation and sometimes tears in people's eyes after they finished those shifts. One of the places I did this was at our COVID hospital over on Green Valley. So that kind of appreciation and partnership is just huge. And I think it won't be forgotten, and it's something we really can build on.
So partnerships go beyond just businesses and you know, healthcare or nonprofits and businesses and healthcare. It goes to an individual person just giving the slightest little gift of thanks.
Yeah.
And so when we think about partnerships, there is no limitation.
Correct.
Chancellor Gilliam, you know, when you and I spoke a couple of weeks ago, I told you I was amazed and excited how well UNCG has done with the pandemic, with your student base, because a few colleges and universities got into a little bit of trouble. What have you seen and what have y'all done through this pandemic, and what do you see coming maybe in the fall of this year?
Well, I think Mary Jo touched on an important concept, and that's community. I think we were able to develop a culture of shared faith. And I think that's true here in the city of Greensboro. That is that what affects one affects us all. And nowhere is this more obvious than it has been with this virus, that it doesn't matter who you are, where you live, what religion you practice, what color you are, the virus touches us all. And as a result, all of us have to come together to fight it. And I think one of the reasons we've been successful is that we've been able to imbue our campus with a sense of community, that we could only move forward together, that we could only find ways to keep our lives somewhat on track if we did so together. And all it takes is one person or one group of people to slip up and the whole thing comes down. So I think this concept of community, and Mary Jo talked about how the community supported frontline workers. And I know Scott's company was critical in helping to pitch in where it was needed, whether it was in PPE, personnel, staffing, money. And I think that that's one of the things that's a hallmark of Greensboro. And one of the things that makes it a special place is that people do have a real sense of community here. As an outsider, so to speak, I've only been here 6 years. This one of the things that has really struck my wife Jackie and I is the sense of community. So our students, our faculty, our staff, all banded together. We learned a lot about management, as I'm sure Scott and Mary Jo did, and managing in a crisis is sort of trial by fire, but it allowed us to think about how we engineer and re-engineer our processes and procedures. And we've learned a lot during this pandemic about our organization, but also about the community. We're not out of the woods yet, as we remind our campus community. We still have some months to go to get to May when we end this semester. So we hope we can continue this sense of community. As you mentioned, Zach, it's not always the case on college campuses. We're asking young people to be responsible, but that's part of being a community member, is doing your fair share and understanding that your fate is shared with others. And as long as we keep that in mind as a broader Greensboro community, then we'll be okay going forward.
So Zach, just a quick comment, because I think Mary Jo and Frank bring up something really fantastic about community. And I think we've been through so much together in such a short period of time that I think there's a real pent-up demand within companies, within community leaders, within just people wanting to get involved, that I think we're going to see a tremendous acceleration of community involvement and people supporting the community and supporting each other when we come out of this. I think empathy is something that I think is really important as we come through this, and I believe the community is going to have a tremendous amount of empathy. I think we're going to work much better together, and I think the partnerships that we've developed from this, I mean, I knew everybody and was really good friends with Frank and have gotten to really know Mary Jo through this process, and I think just even coming out of this, it's going to give us the opportunity to connect our organizations, 3 big organizations here in downtown Greensboro, and you bringing us together here today to talk about that is really important, and I really appreciate it, and thrilled to be on the same panel with Frank and Mary Jo. But I really think that at the end, this is going to accelerate in a really positive way.
You know, you run a global headquartered business. People I think sometimes in Greensboro forget about the assets that we have, the wonderful health care, the fact that Chancellor Gilliam and Chancellor Martin, among others, we're a college town that doesn't realize we're a college town. You, Scott, run one of our largest employee base, one of the most historic businesses we have in Greensboro. We're fortunate that you are located in downtown Greensboro. But I know how much people mean to you when you're looking at your organization. And if you're talking about empathy from the top, I can only imagine what is exuding through your team. Can you talk about what y'all have done and a little bit expand on that?
Yeah, we take a tremendous amount of pride in our involvement in the community. So a lot of our folks are involved in different community functions, whether it be here at DGI, we have an executive on your board, the Chamber of Commerce, just different various charities throughout the community. We sponsor quite a few of those charities, whether it be food banks that we've gotten very involved in as a company going forward. And one of the things that I think is really important, one of the things that I think we lose sight of a little bit, is that we feel a great responsibility as a company to bring jobs to Greensboro. Jobs make a difference. They make a change in people's lives. And sometimes people forget that we're here a little bit. They realize that we have a headquarters downtown. It has about 700 people in it, but we have 6 facilities on this street. We have a SSC right over here across the street with 140 people. Our company was founded literally across the street here in 1904 as Hudson Overall Company. So it's fantastic to be that close. But we have a headquarters with 700 people. We have a store with 10 people. We have a tech center with 150 people. We have our design center in Rev Mills, and we have a photo lab downtown. So our folks can't wait to come back downtown. Throughout the entire year that we've had this pandemic, we have been hiring people. We've actually hired a lot of people. So when they come back, in addition to the folks that we have, and come back into the community, they're going to do several things. They're going to come back and work in the community, come back and be downtown. They're going to spend money in this area with all the proprietors. They're going to go ahead and support the arts and the functions, and they're going to get involved in the charities with our folks that are already involved in a pretty significant way throughout the triad. So I think there's really a great opportunity for us to come out of this as we've all played offense in a significant way and really set a standard for Greensboro, for the rest of the country, on how things are done and how a partnership truly works between healthcare, education, business, and the downtown groups like DGI that support those folks and bring them together.
You know, I'm sitting here, and when we had a preliminary call, I took so many notes, it was unbelievable. But I think when we talk about, you know, the partnerships, and how do partnerships happen, whether it's professional or even personal partnerships, it's built on trust. And what I'm hearing from y'all and Frank is that the trust that we're building together through this pandemic will carry forward tremendous partnerships in the future.
Absolutely.
So it really is together towards tomorrow.
Yeah.
One of the things that we talked about in the preliminary call, and what I'm hearing is, Mary Jo, y'all have hired people. Scott, you've hired people.
A lot.
Chancellor Gilliam, you continue to hire people at UNCG. So Mary Jo, maybe you can start, and Scott and Frank, y'all are recruiting talent through a pandemic. What can Greensboro do, and how can we help you recruit that talent? Or even if you're hiring, there's other people hiring. That means they might come try to get your people. How can we help you retain your talent in this pandemic and in the future?
So we absolutely have been hiring, and I'll give you a great example. We've needed to hire nurses because we've had volumes of patients. But more than that, as you guys know, we've been doing testing for COVID, the vaccination clinics that we're doing. And all of that has to be supported by pharmacists and by IT. And so, yes, we've been hiring. And so one of the things we've been looking at is what are the flexibilities from scheduling that we can give folks? What is the flexibility of what we could do? How much can people do from home versus how much they need to do on site, right? And so being able to look at how broad can our search be? How can we showcase Greensboro and let people know how great this region is? So that's one of the things you can help us do, right? And the educational opportunities for people who, in healthcare, of course, there's a certain standard you have to reach to be able to do our jobs, and how we can help them get a master's degree or pursue even higher levels of education. So being a college town is a great thing. So they are right here and they can pursue that. So those are things that we can partner together on. And actually we already have our chief academic officer is already in a partnership with Frank to help us look at some of those different things that we can do. We are forever throwing our net wider to try to attract that talent to Cone Health. And so it's fascinating the number of people we have hired over the past year and how many positions are posted right now, even in the pandemic. Because healthcare is an ever-growing field, and the need to provide care to our community is great. I will tell you an area that's growing for us is the field of health equity, looking to our underserved communities and making certain that we have the right care for the communities that have traditionally not received care. And so finding people whose passion is in that area of service. So I think we have begun to really expand from what has traditionally just been care at the hospital. So I think that's a new area. And so finding people who have a passion around service that you talked about.
One of the things that, of course, we've learned during the pandemic is where our systems have gaps. and whether it's healthcare or education or whatever it may be. And I know that we have a lot of faculty and students working on health equity and health disparities. But one of the things that we're working on as a community is around broadband access. And what we've learned also during this pandemic is that there are swaths of our urban and rural communities here in city limits of Greensboro, but also in Guilford County, that don't have broadband access or don't have reliable access. So we're working with Guilford County, with the city of Greensboro, with uh, Guilford Public Schools, with North Carolina A&T, to try to develop the infrastructure that allows for access to broadband uh, from a variety of places in our community that are underserved. You can't get telehealth or telemedicine if you can't get online. And I know, Mary Jo, you all have put out hotspots the way we have as well, but it's not as good as doing what we should do in the first place, and that's build the broadband infrastructure out. Another point I wanted to raise, that just to piggyback on what people are talking about hiring and downtown in particular. So we have uh, during the pandemic, of all things, we opened up offices downtown on Elm Street. So we're continuing to invest in downtown, but we continue to hire faculty and staff. And part of the sell for us, as I'm sure it is for Mary Jo and Scott, is that Greensboro is a livable community. And one of the things that I believe strongly we have to commit to is making sure that Greensboro has a vibrant downtown. I don't know of any really vibrant city that doesn't have a downtown or an urban core that is alive with retail shops, with restaurants, with entertainment. And I think that we all need to understand that our ability to attract top talent will only be enhanced by having a very vibrant business community downtown, cultural arts community downtown. And this is something I think we can all come together around.
You know, I think there's a really interesting fact here, specifically for us at Kontoor. We have had zero issue hiring and bringing people to Greensboro. So we hire executives from all over the globe, and we bring them here, whether it's domestically or internationally, in relatively zero issue at all. And I'll tell you exactly why. These folks are coming from very expensive parts of the world. They can't wait to get here. They can't wait to purchase a home, be involved in a community. This is an open and welcoming community. Some of the places that they come from are very expensive, maybe don't have the nice weather that we have. They can't get into the schools that they want to here. But the thing that's beautiful about that for us and for the community is that when we bring in an executive like that, and when Frank, like he says, brings in professors and what have you, and Mary Jo, you bring in all your healthcare executives, they participate in the community. They buy homes, they pay taxes, they use all the services downtown. They really bring a vibrancy. And when they come to our company, they learn about community involvement. So they see their peer group around them that's very involved in the community in different aspects, and they want to get involved. So we take a great responsibility in the fact that we need to grow our business for our shareholders, but also when we talk about shareholders, we think a community as stakeholders. And so we want to do that for this community too, because at the end of the day, it's where we all live, it's where our kids go to school, it's where we shop, it's where our friends are. So collectively, we can make it better, but no issue at all with Greensboro bringing executives in. And I think that that's been something that people have asked me before, and they've been surprised by my answer.
I've been around for 20 years, and I've heard a mixed bag of answers. So I love hearing that answer, and I'll go with it. So let's stick with you in the sense of, we think about success. We want to be the best, healthcare system. We want to be the best organization. We want to be the best college and university. What does success in Greensboro look like from a Kontoor perspective or business community perspective, and what can we do together to achieve that success for Greensboro?
I think the opportunity for greater participation in things like that so that the executives in the community get to know each other and talk about the ideas. So spending time preparing for this with Mary Jo and Frank is always beneficial for me. Frank had a great idea. I just love this, and I've been thinking about it when we got together last time. He talked a little bit about, they've done some things downtown here recently and brought some assets down here. Why don't we all come together and bring some things together where we're collectively talking and in the same building? I think ideas like that are really significant. But I do think that within any community or any business community, we could do a better job of bringing our executives together and talking collectively about how to do more good in the community and how we can support and help each other. How we do that, the venue that we do that in, I don't know, but maybe it's something we can gather a few more folks in this community and talk about.
I know we'd be certainly happy to host that in downtown Greensboro.
Yeah.
Mary Jo, what do you think? What does success look like in your eyes from any perspective?
Well, so for us, success in healthcare for us, of course, is helping lead us to a healthier community. And I think for us is partnering with the city and the county to help us create healthier spaces, right? More sidewalks for people to walk on, areas for children to play in, a decrease in food deserts in areas of our community. So how do we partner to really create a city that's environment creates a healthier community? So that's what we're really all about, is how do we go from just treating sick people to help move toward creating a healthy community. So that's what real success looks like. And that's what we're trying to create, that mindset of, yeah, we're here to take care of you when you're sick, but we'd really rather move upstream and help you and your family stay healthy. And to really do that, we've all got to partner together to make that happen.
Absolutely, and spread that message.
Yes.
Chancellor, what do you think about success in Greensboro and UNC Greensboro and the future?
That's an interesting question, Zach. I've been thinking about that. And a few things. One, I think that we have to convince our young people that Greensboro is a place that they can live and build a career once they graduate college. We have 5 higher ed institutions in the city. We graduate tens of thousands. I mean, we graduate several thousand every year, as does A&T. We probably graduate 15,000 or 20,000 college students in this area every year. So retaining that talent is important. Also, the so-called boomerang people, encouraging people who left Greensboro to come back and live. And I like Scott's metaphor: you live, you work, you pay taxes, you shop. It all ties together. I don't think we need to try to be like any other place, but we need to be the best version of us. And a word that I like to refer to, or concept, is authenticity. We have to authentically be Greensboro. And I think that we've lost sight of that a little bit. Everybody wants to make it this or that, or the new this or the new that city. And I think that what we have to do is chart our own path that is authentically Greensboro. And the way that happens is by the major stakeholders coming together. And as Scott's right, and as Mary Jo, that we need forums, and not, I'm going to sound a little critical here, but I don't mean it that way, which is not just banquets and galas where we come and slap each other on the back, but we need to develop the informal networks that allow for ideas, good or bad, to be vetted, and that we can sit around the fireplace, the campfire, the table, whatever it is, and hash it out and say, gee, Scott, that's a great idea. I hadn't thought about that. Maybe I'd be interested in that. Or, gee, Gilliam, that's a really dumb idea. Let's move on to the next one. But at least we're out there spinning out ideas. We don't, for my money, and probably it's true, and I know Mary Jo and Scott fight this all the time, is silos within their organization. But I believe there's silos within the community. And we have to find a way to establish crosstalk between those silos. The reason that we ought to do that is that once you find out, once information is shared, it provides points of joint leverage. And you can end up being stronger by being partners with somebody than you can on your own. And people think that they're being stronger because they're hoarding information. They think that leads to control and power, but it actually doesn't. It does the exact opposite. It's a diminution of power. Joint activity allows you to leverage and create scale and scope. And so I hope when we come out of this, I hope one of the lessons learned is that people care about this community and that we need to be committed to really trying to be the best version of us that we can be.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Frank.
I actually agree with everything that Frank said. I think back to that, sense of who we really are and the identity that we create for ourselves when we come out of this will be really important. How we support each other coming out of this will be really important. But then I think back to how do we get that together and harness all the intellect that we captured through this and all the stuff that came about during this really awful year. But yet, at the end of the day, we all really survived. And the folks that played offense and thought really intelligently about their world, whether it's a business or a healthcare or educational, they did really well, and we need to help and support them as this evolves to do even better. Because it just, like Frank said, when we share like that, it's just going to make Greensboro better. That's why, I completely 100% root for all the success that could absolutely happen at Cone and all the success and everything that's happening at UNCG, plus our other educational, institutions. And the things that you're doing in downtown, I'm always, whenever I'm with you, Zach, I'm always asking you, what's happening in downtown, what's growing, what's happening, because I'm thrilled and excited about the things that are going to happen down here for our community. So, yeah.
So this will be our last question. And then, but take a moment if you want just to expand and give whatever message you want to the community too. But, I use a phrase with my team saying, how are we going to make lemonade out of this lemon situation we've been in the last year? And so, how are we going to make lemonade going forward? How are we going to, I think Chancellor Gilliam used the term slingshot out of this, because I know Greensboro has an opportunity here. And so, Mary Jo, what do you think about how we can come together? I know partnerships, but can you expand on that? And what do you want folks to know that will be tuning in to us?
So first, I would say there's already some lemonade being made. And I would offer that we need to find some people to share that cool lemonade with and understand we've done more than survived. We've thrived. And by thrive, I mean, have a medical background. Thrive means that you're growing and happy and successful. So we're not just still alive at the end of this terrible year. We're growing, we're happy and successful. So look for the places where that's true. How did that happen? And let's spread that all around. So how do you make lemonade? You take something that's sour and you add sweetness. You squeeze it and get something sweet and add sugar to it. And you mix it and you've made something great. So there are places, and I'll just use Cone Health because I know it best, where we have taken what we felt overwhelmed about and we went out and studied and we said, okay, we need to be more agile. We can begin to innovate and do things faster. Add this, I'll take how we did digital health and virtual visits. We actually moved that forward and went from doing less than 5% of our visits to doing last summer almost 50% of our visits by virtual health. So we did that in 2 months. That would have taken 5 years on the path we were on. We accelerated our growth. I would say Greensboro, we have the opportunity to accelerate our business plans and grow. Necessity is the mother of invention, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's putting the sweetness. We have the opportunity to lock arms and say, what can we do at the Tanger Center when it's getting ready to open that we hadn't even thought about doing? What are some things we can do in open spaces that we hadn't thought about doing before? We've learned so much. How do we apply what we've learned? I'm so excited about how far we've come in technology at Cone Health in just the past year. Mm-hmm. It has put us further on our road, and I bet every business in this community can say the same thing. So that's what I'd say to Greensboro. We're going to thrive, not just survive.
I love the passion that you have too. I can sense it being in the same room with you, even though we're far apart, but I can feel it. And I got to tell you that having spent a large amount of time the last 2 or 3 years at Cone Health, specifically in the Cancer Center, you've got amazing people that work. You've hired great people. What they do for us when we're well or when we're not well has been amazing. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your comments, and thank you for your leadership. It is amazing to go that fast to 50%. That's amazing. Healthcare is a big ship to turn. Mr. Baxter?
You know, Zach, I think we have to lead by example. And at Kontoor, we're doing that. We've brought all of our headquarter type facilities throughout the United States and have now consolidated them into Greensboro. We most recently did it with our retail operations. We moved them out of Pennsylvania during the pandemic. And we brought the executives and the team, and we're moving them down here as we speak. So all of our folks are now concentrated here, and having everybody together is a real benefit for us. But I think it's an example of we're behind Greensboro. It's where we live. It's our community. These are our stakeholders. As well as we do, we want Greensboro to do just as well or even better, because it's only going to support our initiatives. So we feel a great responsibility to the community, feel a great responsibility to our shareholders and our stakeholders, but we collectively like to talk about doing that together. So we will continue to lead by example and do that, and we'll continue to work hard to grow our business, because when we do, we have a real philosophy about pouring back into the community. So the better we do, we think there's more that we can do for the community.
You know, Scott, I got to ask you one question that Chancellor Gilliam asked you, because I think it's important for people to hear. What you just said is you're bringing more jobs to Greensboro. Mm-hmm. And so Chancellor Gilliam said, you know, there's a fear that Kontoor might leave Greensboro.
Sure.
And I know how you feel about that, but I would love for you just to let folks know.
Yeah, I mean, I said it earlier, we were headquartered across the street in 1904. You know, as the CEO of a big company in Greensboro, I could never look my associates and all my employees in the eye who have worked here for generations. Sometimes 2 and 3 and 4 generations have worked here. Sometimes, and right now we have 3 generations that actually work in our offices together, and say that we're going to up and move. Why would we do that? We have so much support from this community. I would disappoint our employees so greatly. We are entrenched here. We're involved in the community. And just as much, I wouldn't disrupt families and situations and whatever it may be for something like that, because we've always received such an outpouring of support. And when we started as a publicly traded company, the support that we received from everybody, from the government, from the city, from the state, from local, from everyone, was just incredible. And you can never forget that. You have to be thankful for it, and you have to go ahead and do good from it. So this is our home. This will be our home. And we are planning to be here for a long, long time, and we're planning to be extremely successful in pouring that back in. But you can count on us being in Greensboro.
You know, that's awesome news, and I know how passionate you are about Greensboro and the Triad as a whole, and I'm so thankful that you were willing to share those thoughts with us, and I'll continue to wear my Wranglers and my Lees as well. And one of the things you mentioned about the city, the county, and the state, how in the community, how we wanted you to stay and we were there for you, but you didn't really ask us for anything. You asked us to just support your business. And folks don't, when you're buying Wrangler or Lee or whatever at the store downtown, you're supporting local and the 700 plus families and the many more that work at Kontoor Brands.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate that, but I have a philosophy as a CEO that relative to how you operate and think about yourself in a community, I have a philosophy that you don't ask for tax breaks and abatements and all those kinds of things because it just takes away from the community that needs it. Those dollars are precious within a community and precious really right now in a pandemic. So we, as a leadership team at Kontoor, need to run a really good business. And that's how you can judge us, and that's how our shareholders can judge us. We do not need to step into the community and ask the community to go ahead and support us. Those dollars need to go to the people that need them. We'll run a really good business. That's a partnership.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. Thank you for being here. I know you're busy as well. Thank you. Chancellor Gilliam.
Well, first, Zach, thanks for putting on this this conversation this morning. Greatly appreciated, and always appreciate listening to Mary Jo and Scott. It always gives me food for thought from a leadership point of view. I think I'd make 3 points. One is like Scott's commitment to Greensboro. We've been here 129 years, and I suspect we'll be here for 129 more. And our university motto is service. And that translates into community engagement. And it's not the university telling the community what to do, but it is a university working with the community and valuing community knowledge as much as, excuse me, campus knowledge. So service is our motto. Community engagement is a priority for us at the university and part of our mission. Second point I wanted to make is around this concept that you mentioned, Zach, that we talked about before about slingshot. And Mary Jo and Scott spoke to this in different ways, which is, like Mary Jo, you said, we're not just trying to survive, we're trying to thrive. And I think what's happened in many communities is that they just have hunkered down and just hope they can somehow make it through. And I think our job as community leaders is to say, what do we want Greensboro to look like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now? And how do we get there? And then third, one of the ways we get there is around the thought leadership that folks who play an important role in the community can engage in. And that is, how can we think together about novel ways to both grow our businesses, but also deepen our connection to Greensboro? And forums like these are one of the ways that we can do it. And I certainly believe we need to continue to have these conversations together in ways that are productive. The better we know each other, the easier it is to work with each other. You know, Cone Health called us up and said, do you have a place where we can do COVID tests? Next thing you know, a week later, we've got hundreds of people coming up to one of our parking garages, and while the university was on a break, and getting drive-through tests. And having those connections and those relationships makes it much easier to work together. So I leave you with those 3 thoughts. And again, Zach, thank you for indulging me this morning. I wish I could be there in person, but you know, us old guys have to kind of take it easy some days.
Thank you, Chancellor. I'm glad you were able to Zoom in or with us today, and thank you for your time. And I look forward to seeing you soon. I know we will. So that concludes our roundtable discussion today. And one of the things I know that I'll take as we go forward is together we'll thrive towards tomorrow. And thrive is the word of the day for me. Thank y'all so much for being here. Thank you so much for chiming in. Now let's mask up, because as Mary Jo said, we want a healthy community, so let's be healthy together. Thank you.
Thanks, Zach.
I hope you enjoyed that roundtable discussion. I can tell you from my standpoint, it was so awesome to listen to those three leaders in three very important fields in our city come together and bounce ideas off of each other and have that communication. They got energized, which energized me. Speaking of energy, we want to make sure that you remember we are looking for your questions. So please put them in the chat room and we'll try to answer them after this next presentation. When we set out to do a strategic action plan, a 10-year plan for downtown Greensboro, we wanted to find the best we could find. And we saw, with the work that we've done through the streetscape plan and thinking about how downtown's going to look and what other cities might be compared to or want to be like or what you hear about. And so we were very fortunate to work with MIG Consultants out of Berkeley, California, and one of their premier partners in Chris Benyon. Chris has served throughout the country, and if not the world, having spoken in Edinburgh, Berlin, among other international locations, and has done plans in Austin, Texas, San Francisco, Denver, Dallas, and then right here in North Carolina, Charlotte. Chris has tremendous experience in urban design. Some of you may have met him when he's come in and we held our community meetings. And so we're going to spend the next 15 minutes or so having Chris explain the Vision 2030 plan, our 10-year strategic action plan.
Thank you, Zach. Downtown Greensboro has been on such a roll for so many years. New investment, new nightlife, new activities, great open spaces with a sense of joy and a sense of community coming together. All kinds of activities, events, programs, businesses, people, new faces, the ballpark. All of these things have lent to a place where people have migrated to, as we can see in the headlines here, where people are investing in the community and helping downtown Greensboro grow. But then, of course, about a year ago, we had quite the cataclysm, as we know, and the streets became empty. And the headlines were equally apocalyptic. What is happening to our downtowns? What's happening to our retail? What is happening to our vitality? How will we get through this together? And then simultaneous to that, we had this great social awakening on racial issues and concerns, deep systemic inequities in our country. And it led to great impacts in downtown Greensboro and around the country. But people have held together. People have said, we need to be together with this. We need to get through these times and use them to springboard to an even brighter, better future. And we have seen that here in downtown Greensboro, North Carolina. And this group, DGI, along with many, many other partners, both public and private and nonprofit, have been together in rebuilding Greensboro in many different ways. There's a lot of work to do, but we're continuing to push forward with many different programs and activities to push toward that brighter future. So as we embarked upon this process over a year and a half, maybe even 2 years ago almost, it started from the standpoint of not consultants coming in to tell everybody what to do. It was about listening to what the community desired and wanted. And we spent a whole process through that, leading from spring 2019 all the way into spring 2020, where we listened and we put together ideas and leveraged our national expertise, others' thoughts, ideas, all kinds of focus to start to craft a set of draft recommendations. Importantly, though, the ink was not dry on the plan because this 2020, as we've all been through, hit us. And we had the opportunity to do a check-in, to wait a second. Are we on the right path? Do we have the right values? Are we hitting on the right cylinders with respect to strategies and recommendations and specific actions. So we were able to use this time over the last 6 months to go ahead, check in with the community, and make sure we're on the right path and to course correct so that in this post-COVID era, in this era of more emphasis, greater emphasis of truly coming together and creating a socially and economically equitable community, that we push forward in a way together through a great process and have those end results and that vision for the coming years. So just briefly here, we had all kinds of workshops and focus groups. Many of you on the line here participated in them, pop-up events, different council districts throughout the community, online surveys. We cast the net far and wide. And as I said, we went back in post-COVID times and said, what are we doing? How can we make this plan even stronger and more targeted and responsive to the changing needs of this community and a new social path and economic path forward? Literally, thousands of ideas have gone into this document, the making of this plan, and it is reflective of all of your input. So with that, I want to just briefly go through the highest level points of the plan and what we would call the plan framework. And it starts with this vision. And you can see some of the keywords up here, from eclectic to resilient to buzzing to entrepreneurial. These are all things that are pretty unique to Greensboro. You know, I've worked in Charlotte. Charlotte does not have the same sort of words in their vision, the same things expressed to us that Greensboro does. We're a little more nimble, a little more edge to us, and creativity that is a hallmark of downtown that we want to build upon. Then we created with you all a series of goals, from being connected to being healthy, to being together, connecting with each other, to having this great community and downtown be a workplace of employment for all. And all of those things then support, or are supported by rather, a series of big moves and then ultimately key strategies to propel forward in the coming years. Importantly, there is a component, a near-term recovery action planning component to this plan, definitely, so that we can start forward now. We're implementing now as we speak, but we're also looking at that 10-year horizon at some bigger ideas and big thoughts and big moves. So let's talk about those. There are several different big moves identified in this plan, starting with the container hub. And you may have heard about this at the corner of Davie and Washington, looking at opportunities to take underutilized space, vacant lots, parking lots, pieces of missing fabric in the downtown environment. And to start with, hey, we may not have the wherewithal to do a mixed-use development right now in a big way, but we could do a container hub. We could do something like this. And I know that Zach is out there working on this right now, looking at bids and getting real traction on putting in something like this near term to activate the street, to provide spaces to incubate small businesses. That's part of it. We want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to grow a business if they want to in downtown, to start a different food or beverage enterprise. They may not be able to afford a bricks and mortar, quote unquote, space in the downtown core, but we can find a space for them in something like this, a container hub, where as an interim here, we build this, we put open space in the middle, really activate things. And then ultimately, this can be transformed into perhaps downtown housing, a mixed use development. All of that is part of the interim steps, near-term implementation and long-term vision, all to help transform the downtown environment. Just next door at the depot, the idea that this historic place and crossroads of transportation, of people, activity, the railroad, buses, can and should be more. A couple examples here, the Ferry Building in San Francisco on the lower left, and Union Station in Denver in the upper right. If you've seen these places, these are old terminals that have been transformed to what we would call the living rooms for the downtown environment, these indoor spaces where you still have that hub of transportation activity, but you have bookstores, eateries, public places where you can set up Wi-Fi for free and have a business meeting. All of these activities coming together, we think there's a lot of potential here at the current depot site and in this whole sense of a mixed use development opportunity. And you see here the news and record site, some opportunities there along. This is Elm Street on the left here, just to orient everyone. Another big idea that came from this, and really forward thinking from the community, is, hey, we need to be looking at our mobility in ways that is truly on the cutting edge, such as what is the future of autonomous shuttles, and what is the opportunity to connect in ways that is less expensive than a big light rail line. You know, the billions, hundreds of millions of dollars they're putting in Charlotte with their transportation system. We may not have that, but we may not even want that. What about the opportunity to create an environment where we bring in an autonomous shuttle and that new technology that can circulate around the downtown and transform corners and downtown environments and create transit stops with real-time information and data, and importantly, pull upon the local knowledge and resources and creativity that we have in UNC Greensboro, and in particular, Carolina A&T. They are already doing research on autonomous vehicles. We're going to connect with and are connecting with those programs to create ultimately what could be forward-thinking mobility system where you can see some of the proposed potential routings that could happen between those two institutions around the downtown and ultimately outward to the Coliseum or other types of places. Speaking of mobility and streets, Zach mentioned the streetscape plan, lots of exciting things happening there, and the idea that we can transform and build spaces from places like this on Elm Street, existing environment, looking at the flexibility where we can create parklet spaces. The open and shared streets that we've done during COVID are the pilot testing, the precursor for these sorts of ideas where we still allow vehicles. We want bikes to be able to come down in a much more, what the planners would say, multimodal environment for everybody, balancing autos with pedestrians, with bicycles, with scooters, whatever it might be. And then ultimately having the flexibility to shut down the street to create that true pedestrian promenade or orientation. Maybe this is on the evenings, maybe it's on the weekends, but allowing flexibility in our street environments is key. Another big move in this plan is to look more specifically at the south end and lower downtown. Also, another district is the Battleground Entertainment District, we're calling. A cool opportunity here where looking south to the downtown core, this is Battleground. It's a short segment of a street when we get into here, but there's a lot of possibility for creating something more, for filling in the fabric, for leveraging some of the uses that are here. And again, the proximity to activities and entertainment such as the ballpark, the brew pub that's behind us over our left shoulder. And to look at an environment like this, where we can create activity, walkability, a sense of destination, both for locals and for people from outside the region, tourists who would come into the area. And again, with that street flexibility. We think there's a great opportunity to bring in a multi-use arena into downtown. This is something that would be probably of small to mid scale, but be able to host sporting events, be able to have music events and activities. Importantly about this, designing it in a way that really integrates with the downtown environment. You see, we don't want big blank walls. We want these pedestrian plazas, activity, transparency between the building and the outside area, places for gathering, for walking, before, after, so that all of those great activities, you don't just come downtown and go to the event and leave. It's a whole experience that integrates with and supports the surrounding businesses, restaurants, etc. So a lot of opportunity here. This is one of those that's not going to happen in the next 3 months, but we get the wheels spinning, and in the coming years, as a part of this plan horizon, we definitely see an opportunity like this happening. Speaking of that phasing, you can see some of the ideas here of where we would go in the coming 0 to 3 years, 4 to 6, and 7 to 10 years. I think even through this economic time and COVID, we are seeing that there is some strong potential for recovery and rebound, and we think we could be on track for these different big phases and big moves. I'm going to go quickly through the set of supporting strategies right now, and there are a number of them, because this is not just about big flashy projects or specific bricks and mortar in the ground. This is about a myriad multitude of projects, programs, policies that come together in strategy form to do things like support small businesses. DGI and the city have been doing this. This is the lifeblood of the downtown. We have to ensure that we are sustaining these businesses and tapping into our collective creativity and innovation to create jobs and opportunity. I've talked a lot about walkability. All great downtowns are based on places where people want to stay and can easily walk and get across the street and go from destination to destination. We don't want a place where people have to get in their car and drive from place to place, because more than likely they're going to get in their car and they're going to leave the downtown environment. That's not what an exciting urban hub is about. And there are a variety of strategies and recommendations within this plan to support that. Very closely related is ensuring connections for all. And importantly, so much of equity and access is related to things such as transportation, being able to easily access services or cheaply get to my job, because maybe I can't afford another form of transportation. I should be able to wait at a comfortable bus stop and be able to get on a bus or another mode, such as an autonomous shuttle, that gets me quickly and efficiently to that job interview, to that resource that I need, to that housing that we want to have and create more of for everybody in the downtown environment. Ensuring easy connections is also about ensuring social and economic connectivity. There are what, Zach, 40,000+ students when you draw a simple, quick radius around the downtown core. And we need to nurture and retain that student talent, the college students, the graduates. We want them to be the next generation of talent and economic builders in the core. And there are a number of strategies around that. And we're getting traction. Greensboro is a place where people are seeing opportunity. It is a hip, cool place to be in your youth, not just to have a family, but to have a whole life spectrum there. And part of that is amplifying the creative vibe. We want to make sure that music, arts, culture, these unique urban experiences are what attract that younger generation. So it's a multiplicity of things: job opportunities, housing opportunities, and a place where I want to be that feels creative, that I'm connecting and growing as an individual throughout my life. The Greenway is a great and really visionary infrastructure investment that we need to leverage more. A lot of talk is out there about transit-oriented development, putting housing and services and resources and retail next to transit and transit stops. We think similarly, we can have trail-oriented development to be able to attract private sector investment with this public sector improvement and get bang for the buck and critical mass to fulfill the Greenway's potential as a recreational resource, a connector, and a development catalyst. Incentivizing residential development, I've mentioned that a couple times. We need to make sure, and a lot of downtowns have gotten this wrong. As they've grown and changed in the last decade or two, they've only created housing for a certain type, which is the high-end housing. We don't want that. We want to encourage a diverse range of housing types, styles, and price points that reflects our community's diversity. A number of programs and a number of partnerships that need to happen from both the public and private perspective to push this ahead and support and grow lively businesses, lively neighborhoods and local businesses. And then all of this comes together to cultivate a mosaic of distinct districts. Great downtowns are not just, oh, that's the downtown. There are places that had the meatpacking district or the historic Hill, or the funky new industrial creative neighborhood. Downtown Greensboro has the seeds of that in so many places. We want to cultivate and strengthen this complementary network and mosaic of neighborhoods to serve a broad variety of needs, tastes, different times in your life, different lifestyles, all together. Finally, this is about implementation. This is not just big vision points and ideas, of which there are plenty. We are focused on, in this plan, a variety of, and there's just one example here, supporting the strategy of entrepreneurs and small businesses, a number of different sub-strategies that DGI and all of you all, the city, other partners, businesses, you as a stakeholder, an interested person in the downtown environment, we are tasking with implementation here. This is a plan built by the community. This is everybody's plan, and everybody should feel ownership in and license to implement this great downtown plan. And so this is the roadmap. Please raise your hand and reach out to become more involved. But this plan represents, the actions, the lead partners, or the supporting partners, timeframes, all kinds of resources. There's plenty to do. I'm excited to continue to see how you all build upon the vision that you have created and create an even better and even brighter future for this wonderful downtown Greensboro over the next decade. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And thank you for your vision, your energy for Greensboro, and your partnership. I'd also like to thank the partners that helped fund the Strategic Action Plan, which is the City of Greensboro, Guilford County Commissioners, as well as Action Greensboro, the Greensboro Chamber of Commerce, the Bryan Foundation, and the Simula Foundation. It's important to have this roadmap. We've got direction of where to go the next 10 years. And as Chris mentioned, we're not wasting any time. We didn't invest in this to let it sit on a shelf and collect dust. We are actively, with our team, seeking contractors with container hubs to do upfit, working with the city on the location to try to nail that down, understand the cost, how to get started, and what might be needed. We are already working with North Carolina A&T State University on the autonomous vehicle technology that they've got going. And so we are moving forward on this strategic plan today. So thank you all for that. By the way, Kim is waiting for any other questions that may come up. And so this is live action, as you might say. A couple that came in, Carolyn asked, how do you think Greensboro can better suit all members of our community? And I'll tell you, I think that's a great question, and it's certainly on everybody's mind right now. And I would say that downtown Greensboro is the place that allows people from all over the city to come together. Downtown's everybody's place. And so if you notice what Chris said when we were doing this plan, we went out to all the districts. We didn't just have charrettes or meetings in downtown Greensboro. We went to the different districts, all 5 of them, to seek input. We've got to continue to do that. And I think Dr. Cagle, as well as maybe Chancellor Gilliam, mentioned we can't have any silos. We got to break down the silos. We've all got to work together. And the last slide that Chris showed different organizations that will help lead or be a part of different aspects of what the strategic plan is. We have to make it the absolute top priority to be the best Greensboro that we can be is to not have any silos and all of us come together, which is why we named this Together Towards Tomorrow. Another question that we had was, how do we take this energy and move it forward? And I thank Gina for that question. I think, we've got to, again, come together. I encourage folks to sign up for our Instagram at Downtown Greensboro, our Twitter, our Facebook. That's where you're seeking a lot of information. When we have meetings, when we have committees that we'll have to help implement these strategies, we want to hear from you. This is not Downtown Greensboro only's plan. This is the community's plan. It's just up to us to help get this plan to fruition, to implement, as Chris said. So we've got to have your energy. We would love for you to help us do this. Another question that came up was, what has DGI done to help businesses? And I'll tell you, as I mentioned at the beginning, March 12th, the world stopped. A lot of things changed throughout the world, not to mention just downtown Greensboro. And we pivoted, much like everybody else did. We pivoted and we created new programs. We created the Feeding the Front Lines program, and we raised money, the community money. We put our money in, and we were able to serve 100 meals a day for 30 days at Cone Health, feeding the front lines. That also helped our restaurants. We also created a retail revitalization grant program. And through that program, we gave $1,500 grants to over 75 businesses. We created the 12 Days of Meals, where we served 250 meals to the clients of Greensboro Urban Ministry, which actually turned out to be over 24 days of 250 hot meals. Again, the restaurants were able to provide these meals. We included a tip, and we were able to feed folks that needed it. We are now have the hashtag DGSO2Go, where we're giving out $1,000 a week. 500 goes to whoever is supporting local business shops and the business that they supported. So it's a win-win situation. Through these programs, DGI has invested back into the small businesses over $250,000 directly to help our small businesses in downtown Greensboro. But it doesn't stop there. We're already thinking about the next plan. I think we need to do more for feeding the front lines. We've got to continue to focus on our retail. You can help by ordering something from our local businesses, by coming downtown and supporting our retail shops. I can tell you, they need you. We're not out of this yet. We are still maintaining social distancing protocols. We encourage you to wear a mask, to wash your hands, and hopefully we get through this where we can all be together. You can find more information on our website at downtowngreensboro.org. We thank you so much for being here with us today. We'll have this available online as well as we can send it out to you. And please, I look forward to seeing you downtown Greensboro. Thank you.